If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
Okay, so firstly, welcome to the first session on Workday Calculated Fields. I am Arpit, a Workday certified professional, and I'll be your trainer for the next 5 to 6 days to have you get started with one of the key elements in the Workday space, which is calculated fields. In the next 5 to 6 sessions, the agenda is to basically get you familiarized with calculated fields, um, so that you can get market ready to start working with calculated fields and actually get you more comfortable with this particular aspect of Workday. So calculated fields is going to be one of the more important sections, which since it is not binded by one particular source, so it can be used into multiple areas of Workday. So saying that, please feel free to stop me anytime, and uh, it will be great if we can have this session more interactive. So if you feel like if you don't understand something, or if you want to actually understand it better, please feel free to stop me right there, and we can discuss more on it. So I want to run it in a way where we can just get the summary of what it is and then move to the tenant to basically also see how it goes live into the tenant also. So I am currently logged into one of the implementation tenants as well, the DPD tenant, and we'll be running through each of the things that we will study as part of the PPT, right? We'll be going into the tenant and basically doing it as well to get the more clarified version of the particular thing that we have learned. To get started, this is the disclaimer. And I hope you can just go through it very quickly, and then I'll move to the agenda. So as part of today's agenda, I want to cover what is calculated fields, what are the characteristics of calculated fields, and there are two types of calculated fields that we'll see as a whole, which is a system-wide, and another one is a report-specific calculated fields. So we'll go through both the types, and maybe if the time permits, we'll also see different types of calculated fields as well. So Workday provides a whole set of calculated fields based on the requirements. So we can always just run through the types as well if the time permits today. Okay. Before actually going into the calculated fields, I just want to talk about Workday as a whole. So Workday is an cloud-based financial management and HCM software vendor. It was founded in March 2005 and launched in November 2006. Workday has evolved over the time. Now it has included several other parts of spend management, and it has more the analytics part of things as well very recently too. So over the time, Workday has been one-stop solution for not just financial or the HCM, but it also has been helping the clients with their analytics and the spend management portion as well. Founded by David DeField and Anil Busri, and Workday is evolving as we speak, and it has been growing day and night. And we'll be, as part of this particular session, we'll be covering one of the key aspects of calculated fields, because as I said, cal fields literally touches kind of every aspects of Workday. So even if we talk about finance or HCM or the reporting or the business processes, calculated fields are being used in a manner where it has a role to play in evaluating values. We'll see how it as we go along with the session. So to basically define calculated fields, so as the name suggests, right, the fields in Workday which are created for the purpose of calculating values based on the logics that we will define, and then it will reflect back as a field. So as a whole, if you just divide these two terms of calculated fields, it is calculated based on the manipulation and transformations we will do based on the logics we'll put, and then actually reflecting back as a particular field is what we call calculated field. So if you have ever had a chance to see the vendors, the other uh, uh, other platforms like SAP or SuccessFactors or PeopleSoft in the past, these platforms had a very complex process to extract values from their from their existing, let's say, database, right? But with Workday, calculated fields have made the whole job pretty smooth, and now anyone with the functional expertise can actually go in and extract values from Workday's database based on the logics that we can actually put in place. So we'll be actually seeing, and you'll get the more feel of it once we get move to the tenant and actually start doing it. But for a fact, just look at it in a way where we are extracting values from Workday's database, and then with the calculated fields, we have the permissions to manipulate it and put our logics to it as well. For example, if I want to look at uh, if a manager is having a requirement to know his co-worker's birthday before 1 day prior, right? So that he can just make some arrangements. That can be achieved by calculated fields, where I pull up my co-worker's birth date -1 is what the manipulation I'll do, and I'll extract that value and put it in some kind of a report, so that when I run the report, I'll be able to actually know that which co-worker's birthday will be coming up next, right? So that's one example of it, and we can have, again, several different examples. But calculated fields are used in a manner where we use the existing values of Workday, manipulate them, and basically put them in a field to be used further down in any reports or business processes or anywhere else. Some uses of calculated fields. The one example that I gave of date calculations, where you can actually calculate date from the existing values which they're in Workday. You can do math calculations somewhere like I am, I'm going to sum up my whole CTC, right, which includes my base, pay plus bonus. So if I want to reflect that into a particular single field, I can do that using calculated fields, where I put a math calculation saying bonus plus my base pay provides me the total pay, right? So I can do math calculations and just put them into a single field, let's say as total pay. I can do concatenation, I can do substrings, I can do formatting. So if let's say I'm only looking to pull the first 3 letters of a particular name, the first name of a user, I can do a substring. If let's say a user has entered the name into the without capitalizing his first character of the name, I can do it using the formatting, where I can format the particular date, text field, the name text field, to look into a manner where it is formatted to look in the right format that I want. Convert currency fields, I'll always have option to convert from one currency to another using this calculated fields. I can use range bands for numeric and currency fields. So if I want to actually have a logic built on a particular range of fields, I can do it using the range bands calculated fields that we'll see. Determine if a condition is true or not. Again, let's say if I want to very specifically call out in a report that please bring out all the employees with a dependent less than, who has a dependent greater than 2, right, who has more than 2 dependents, then bring me true, otherwise false. Something like that, right? If I want to have a condition which says true or false, then I can basically extract out that particular value based on the condition that I'll say that can workers dependents greater than 2, bring out true for me. So I can do something like this as well, and we'll see more of it when we move to the tenant. Sum, count, and aggregate, another type of calculated fields where we can sum two values. I want to sum. So if let's say I'm filing, I use Workday Finance as a module as well, and there are 10 expenses like mobile reimbursement, gym reimbursements, and all those. And I want to sum my whole expenses that I've filed for over the year. I can do the sum. I can count the number of expenses I do, and these all can be possible using the instance related calculated fields. Lookup values in related to objects. This is pretty important, and lookup related values are where I want to. So we'll get into the concept of what is a business object, what is related business object. So you can basically so Workday is basically design an object based structure. So every particular data set is tied to a particular business object, and they are all being formed in a manner of tree where one business object is connected to another business objects. So you will have the flexibility to extract out values from one business object to another business object using these lookup values in related objects. So we'll see how we can actually pull out values from one business object to another business object using the lookup values. And this is very critical because these are the values which is not readily available. When you design a report, right, you will have to you will have the requirements to extract values from another business object which is not readily available. That's where the Workday calculated fields kicks in, and that's where I see most of the benefits while creating reports. Um, so uses of calculated fields, we have already discussed this. Calculated fields can be used as part of the custom reports. So if you are building out reports for the business use or the integration use as well, you will have the option to use calculated fields as part of a custom report. It can also be used as a prompt. So while running the report, I want to actually have a particular prompt at the first place, which which takes in a value of anything, right? That brings out employees whose birthday is greater than 2000, right? 2000. So I'll put a prompt there, which will take in the date field, and based on the field that I'm putting, I'll get my values as part of the report. Again, it could be a part of the prompt, it could be a part of the filter directly. So as part of the reporting, we'll see that there is a filter tab as well, which takes in the values and it filters out results based on the what values we'll give. And accessing data from the primary subjects. So I've talked about it in the last section of lookup values, where we extract out values from the primary business object. From one business object to another business object, right? So if I want to extract out values from another business object, so one example that I can give is I am now dealing with workers data, but I now somehow has a requirement to pull data from the expenses of that worker. So these are two different business objects we're talking about. One is worker, one is expense, right? So if I have to somehow connect them and reflect this data for a worker and through the expenses, then that's where the cal fields will come in, where I'll be actually looking at the lookup value field to access data from a primary business object, so that it basically comes into the same report as a whole. This can only be understandable once we move to the tenant and see, but just understand that we will have the flexibility to push data from other data sources as well using the calculated field when it comes to Workday reporting. Workday, as part of those business processes as well. So if you have seen a business process in Workday, you have realized that we have a option to add condition steps. So condition steps are the steps which basically tells you that does this particular step runs or it should not run, right? So you put a condition saying that, let's say, only send approval to expense managers if the base pay is exceeding maybe let's say $100,000. So if the total base pay is greater than $100,000 for an employee, send an approval step to the expense manager. Otherwise, don't send it. So we can create a whole condition, the true and false condition, right? We have talked about. So you can create a true and false condition saying total base pay greater than $100,000. If yes, send it to expense manager. If no, skip the step as a whole. So we can have more control of our business processes if you put a condition step over it. So we'll learn again more about it once we move to the tenant. As part of the integrations, right? So while you run an integration, there are prompts just like what we have in reports, and the integrations can actually run on actually extract values real time. So you can use those particular cal fields to extract out values and run it as per your need. So if I want to run an integration which takes in a value based on the last successful integration run, let's say an example, right? I can create a calculated field which looks at the last integration run and then just basically pull out that value, and based on that we'll have our basically integration running and fetching the values. Also, one thing I want to tell you is cal fields fetch their data real time. So it's not like these values are stored already as part of the cal fields. So every cal field when evaluated is collecting its data real time, right? And that also makes us little sensitive about the creation part of it. So since it's real time, we want to make our cal fields as optimized as possible, and also we'll look at the hacks of how we can actually utilize the existing calculated fields instead of creating new ones. So when there is an option to use the existing calculated fields as part of our reports or any other process, like any other place as well, it's always better to use the existing ones rather than moving on to create a new one, because again, creating a new one will only create an overhead and it will put a lot of issues because you're only increasing the data load by creating new cal fields. So we have to understand that even though we are creating calculated fields, it has to be created in a more optimized format. And if possible, we have to use the one which is already there in the tenant instead of creating new ones. So we'll look at all the factors while we create calculated fields. Another place where you can use a calculated field is the scheduling, right? So as part of our reports and integrations, you will always have, let's say, a report running daily. As one example I gave you is about the birth date thing. So I want the managers to be notified of their their reportees, right? Birth date every single day. So I can schedule a recurring process using a calculated field which tells a manager using a Workday report that your your report is birthdays tomorrow. So we can schedule a particular report and put a condition saying that if the workers report is birthdays tomorrow, send out an alert based on the output that you get on the report. So we can do all these things using calculated fields. Again, we have already discussed this, but these are the few characteristics of a calculated fields. They are always calculated at runtime. They are always associated with a business object, and it is based on the existing data. Workday calculated fields doesn't manipulate data. The only thing that calculated fields do is they retrieve data. So they don't so let's say if we look at the whole data in Workday as a database, so we only have options to retrieve it and not modify the data. So every time you run a calc field, the data is extracted from that database. And if you look at the whole Workday system as an as a tree format, then it's associated with the business object, and the data which is there in the database will be extracted out. So these are the three main characters of the calculated fields, and we'll be seeing that how these values are basically calculated. Now, coming to the first topic of the day is the two types of calculated fields. One is the system-wide, and another one is the report-specific calculated fields. So what do we really mean by system-wide and report-specific calculated fields? So system-wide fields are the, as the name suggests, are the fields which can be used anywhere, right? So if I want to use a calculated field as part of another report, or if I want to use a calculated field as part of a business process that I'm creating, that is already there, I will have the flexibility to use the existing calculated fields created by me or any other user if it's created in the system-wide format. They are not specific to a particular report. They are not binded by a particular report, and they can be reused in the different reports and processes. So, as I was saying, right, there is there's a standard way of how do you approach creating a cal fields. One is, the first thing is to look out if it really already exists. If it already exists, then the best thing is to reuse that calculated field. And you will only be able to reuse a calculated field if it's system-wide in its nature. So what I mean is, I'll just move to the tenant really quick. So if you'll use the task of create calculated field, right? The calculated field that I create from here will be global in nature, will be created as a tenant wide. Okay. While if I'll very quickly just create a report. So if I this is one sample, one field that I've created, right? if you have seen here, sorry, I have to go back to that again. So I'm on a report, right? So if I'll go here and from the related action of this, if I'll go to this calculate field for report. So if you see, if I'll click on this, right, this is creating a calculated field for report. The report name is test. What it says is this particular field that I'm going to create, right? The cal field that I am creating is very specific to this particular report. And it doesn't allow me to used by any other report. So it's not created in a system-wide environment. It's not created in a global environment. We are creating a cal field very specific for this particular thing only. So again, coming back to the point is a system-wide can be used into multiple reports, and the one which is created specific for a report can only be used as part of that particular report. It can't be used outside. So so the question comes is, what is the need of having a report specific cal fields when you can always create it in a global environment? So, while creating a system-wide cal fields, the major drawback is it is available for everyone to modify, right? I can modify a calculated field if it's global in nature, and if it's being used by, let's say, 10 other repos, right? The value of the all 10 will change. Whereas if I'm creating a particular cal field very specific to a report, I as an owner will have the right permissions to basically, edit those fields associated with that report. So so when you basically have a report specific calculated field, it gives you more control over it. But it has to be a special scenario when you create it, right? If you are doing a lot of mathematics and if you're creating a calculated field values which is very sensitive, right? You don't want it to be changed by any other user. Then that's the only case where you create a report specific calculated fields, because report specific calculated fields cannot be reused. It is very specific to that report, and this report specific calculated fields will only be used if there are special business case scenarios. That's the only purpose of it. As I said, when you create a report specific calculated field, it doesn't allow other users to edit it or make modifications to it. So that's the advantage we carry. Whereas in most other cases, a system-wide one is being used into multiple places, and we have seen that happening, right? When you while we modify an existing cal fields, you have to make sure that it is not used by any other reports, because if you change the whole logic of it, the 10 other reports which are using the same system-wide calculate fields will have the new logic implemented, and that could really make a difference to the whole result of what the report was giving, right? So we have to very specific about what we are doing as part of the calculate fields. That brings to the end of this particular presentation. I'll basically move to one of the activities as well, real quick. So before I even actually move ahead, do you have any questions or anything you want to address?
Hi, this is Sirisha. I joined a few minutes late. Just want to check like how many hours is this course?
This is probably going to be 5+ hours.
5+, okay.
Yeah, and I will be running it for 6 days instead of 5, because I want to keep the last day as just for our Q&As and if you have any doubts or anything.
Okay.
So every day we'll be running it for 45 to 50 minutes, and then I'm keeping the last day just for our questions or anything. any other thing.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll move to the first activity for the day, and you will have some other activities to also do it, as part of our daily routine. But these are the one activity that we'll be going through, where we basically create and access calculated fields. Okay. So to get started, okay. So looks like this doesn't have Teresa as an active employee. So I'll just use my current employee to create a calculate fields, but I think you might have access to log in as Teresa. So let's assume that we are signed in as Teresa Serrano, and we are creating a calculate field with the following values. Okay, so maybe I'll just put it here. Yep. So to create a calculated field, the task that you have in Workday is create calculated field. So create. So you can just write the first 3 letters of a task, and it will just show up. So this is the task, the create calculated fields. It brings you 3 screens, 3 options really, while you create a calculated field. The first one is the field name. What reference would you like to give? While you call that particular field. Which business object is it is associated with? So as I said, every particular cal fields in Workday is associated with a business object. And the last one is what function do you want to perform? So what manipulation you want to perform as as part of this particular cal field. So we'll be creating a test CF. This is CF reference to calculated fields. The business object that I'm using is the worker business object. So you will see there are 2 options. We'll take the first one. If you want to really know which is the right one, you can just dig more into it. You can open up using this small icon that you see here, and it will basically tell you that we are associated with the right business object. The function that I want to perform, right? So these are the function that we can perform with a calculated fields. We can do all these functions as part of our cal fields. So as a start, we will be formatting our particular text. So I'll be using the format text, and the function that I want to do is here is I want all the employees, whatever is been extracted, right, as part of our report, should have their gender to be reflected in the upper cases. So normally, when you look into Workday, it's in the standard format of the first letter being capitalized and other letters are in small. But my requirement from the businesses, they want the upper report to reflect the gender, but they want it to be reflected in the upper cases. So I'll click on OK. So when I click on OK, this calculated field is created in the background, right? I now have to basically perform my function. So the source field is what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make manipulations to a field of gender, right? So I'll just search gender here. So as you'll search gender, this is the one that you'll get. I'll quickly have a look at what type of field it is. It is a gender field. It is associated with the correct business object. I want to be associated with the worker. And also description, it says the gender of the worker, which is what I want, right? So I'll choose this. And what manipulation do I want to perform? I'll go to the options real quick. And there are 3 options that I get: lowercase, proper case, and uppercase. The lowercase will reflect the whole gender value into the lowercase format. The proper case is what we normally get as part of the field provided by Workday. So if we'll use directly this field, right, this is normally in the proper format only because it's been provided by Workday. But there are certain cases where, let's say, a user is entering its name and he has entered the whole name into a lowercase, right? You don't want that to happen. You want that to be in a proper case. So that's where we use proper cases. But our requirement says we want the cal field to be, oh, sorry, the gender to be reflected in the uppercase, right? So we'll choose this particular option. Now I'll just click OK. So we have so this is a save confirmation, right? We have successfully created a calculated field in our tenant right now. And we want to basically see this in action as well. So the best way to see our calculator in action is to create that field and just use it as part of a report. So we'll create a test report and see. Just note that we have created this into a system-wide format, right? Because I've used this particular task to create it. So this is, test CF is readily available to be used by anyone in the tenant right now. So anyone can go in and use this calculated field as part of their reports. So let's see what value does it bring on. So another task that I'll use to create a report is create custom report. The report name will be test report. The report type will be advanced. I will keep this checked, and I'm using workers for HCM reporting as my data source. So have a quick look at what this data source is. So it basically accesses the worker as its primary object and returns one row per worker, exactly what I want, includes all active and terminated workers. And the primary business object is worker, right? Perfect. I mean, I've created my calculated field on a worker business object, right? So it will allow me to pull the values which are associated with the worker BO, which is what I want. I want the test CF to reflect as part of this report. This can only be possible if my primary business object is same as what the calculated field of business object I've chosen, right? I've chosen worker as the business object as part of my calculated field, that is test CF, and the report data source also has the worker as the business object. So this is perfect for me. So I'll just choose this and click OK. Okay, so now if you'll go in, I'll use particular fields. Let's say what we have created. We have created test CF here. So I'll pull that field. See here, the test CF is coming up, right? This is what we have created. Oh, there are other test CF also, but so you see there are a lot of other test CF also. And we don't really know which is our one, right? So you can basically pull that here in a new tab, look at it, and yeah, this is exactly what we created. So I'll just choose this one. I'll also pull up the one original as well, right, which Workday provides. This is the one which we formatted as part of our calculate fields. I'll pull this one also. And just to know which worker I'm looking at, I'll pull the worker as well, so that I'll be able to know which worker's gender is this and what we have formatted it into. Okay, so this is the worker. Yep, this is the one that I want. Very quickly, I'll also add a prompt, because, or maybe just I can run it in test and see. Okay, so you can very specifically run it for a single worker by adding in a prompt. But if I'm just testing, I'll just create this report to see what data it brings in, right? So we'll just run it in test, because run will run the report into a system-wide format. And I'm not sure how many workers this tenant has. So I'll just run it in test, because it will bring us the top 10 results. Okay, these are the prompts that are delivered as part of the data source, the worker for HCM reporting. So I'll choose all of them. Okay, and I'll click OK. Interesting. Okay. So now we have the top 10 results being coming out. So as you'll see, right, our test CF is now bringing the results in the format that we want. We want the format to be uppercased of the gender field. And this is the field that Workday provides, right? It's in the proper case. But we have did some modification to reflect that as a uppercase field. So this is what calculated fields can do. It can manipulate the data which is already there in Workday into the format that we want. That's the whole purpose of having a cal field. So I hope this will clarify that why we use it. We use it to modify the existing data which is there in Workday. So that really completes our first walkthrough assignment, where we get a feel of how the cal fields are created, how we can use them, and how the data is reflected as a whole. Okay. So another thing that we can really look today is again, how do we search out on existing calculated fields? I want to just give you a glimpse of how you can basically search out the existing calculated fields as well. So I'll stay in the tenant and just see, right? When we search for test CF, right, you have seen that there are a lot of other test CF also already created, right? So if they're already there and they're available for the tenant wide use, we can always just search it out and use the existing ones rather than creating new ones, right? So the best way to look at if the calculated fields already exist or not is to use this task in Workday called maintain calculated field. It tells you there are two reports, right? There is maintain calculated fields, which brings you the tenant wide fields, right? And then there is maintain calculated fields for report. So these are the calculated fields which are very specific, created for a report, right? So I'll just go to the first one. These are there are 12,674 calculated fields currently in this tenant, which is huge, right? But I want to really look at the business object of a worker, right? Because my particular report currently is with the worker. So I'll just filter it out using the business object of worker. Okay, it basically gives me all the business objects with worker on it. Okay, now I'm there, right? So if you'll move to the page 2 and 3, you will now find all the fields which is created for the worker. Maybe I'm just looking for test CF, right? I'll search here test CF. Here you go, test CF. And I'll just filter. There you go. So this is the test CF, which is in format text. And it also gives me flexibility to edit it. So if you want to really search for calculated fields, you will see that you can use this particular report to filter and search for your reports. Another but basic report that you can use is all calculated fields. This is another report that you can use to search for calculated fields, and this is a much better report because it basically asks you for a business object as part of the prompt itself. Given that if you don't choose any option, it will basically give you all of them. Another thing you will notice is it also tells you, do you want the report specific calculated fields to be displayed as well? Maybe yes, right? As part of the maintain calculated field, it only tells you, it has a separate report for reflecting the report specific to, fields specific to reports. But all calculated fields gives you an option to also, reflect it gives you a check mark to also choose the report specific calculator also. So I'll taking worker as my business object, and I'm also checking the report specific calculated field as well. And when I click OK, so since it's a huge set now that I'm dealing with, it might just take a few minutes or a few seconds to reflect. So let's see. Okay, it's longer than expected. Maybe I should be looking at the last. No, I have not checked this report specific calculated fields mark. Since the data set is so huge, it's not coming up very quickly. Maybe I'll look at the data set, which is pretty small. Okay. Expense report, maybe. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Now you see, right? So this is another report that you can use. It gives you a more descriptive way of. So this is the business object. This is the cal field. This is tells you what is the source. This is a report specific or system wide. So anything which is calculated is a system wide field, can be used as part of multiple reports, multiple business processes. Whereas the report specific one can only be used as part of the reports. It also tells you where this particular field has been used. So if you look at it, this calculated field, right, report specific, is used as part of this custom report called of average expense cycle times. This calculated field, right, which is system wide in nature, has been used as part of two particular reports and one condition rule. Condition rules, as you might have known, is part of the business processes. So this calculated field, which is system wide in nature, is used as part of as part of a condition rule, which is used as part of a BP business process, and another is used as part of a custom report as well. So this is one report that you can really use to see and give you a summary of what is the system wide field, what is the report specific field, where it is used, and all the other things as well. So basically that completes the two walkthroughs. I will basically ask you to maybe go through your the Google site, where you have all the content also, and it has the materials for you to really do some lab activities as well. There are two assignments which are there, so you can have a look, and that will basically give you an idea of how you can get yourself familiarized with calculated fields. Tomorrow we'll actually go deep into other type of calculated fields, like how do you manipulate states, how do you manipulate text, um, before we move into the more complex ones like evaluations of values based on different scenarios. So that will come in the later section. But yeah, that's something that I want to cover as part of today's agenda. We will take it lightly in maybe today and tomorrow, so that you get a feel of it. But I would really encourage you to go through those lab activities and assignments before our next session. And I'm happy to answer if you have any questions now.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.